What is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you are taking in this podcast. I greatly appreciate you guys very much. I don't know if it's because it's the playoffs or something, but a big uptick, especially on the audio side. So you love to see that. If you're not yet subscribed, please go to Talking Buffalo. Just hit that follow button. Big shout out to today's sponsor, the Law Office of William Mattar. Hurt in a car, call William Mattar, 444-4444. Call William Mattar today to get the compensation that you deserve. All right, folks, Wednesday podcast, midweek, which means, as usual, I'm joined by my good friend from SB Nation, Matt Warren. What's going on, buddy? I can only imagine, for somebody like you, what you do over at SB Nation, how busy it gets to be when it gets to be playoff time, man. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good. Actually, our busiest time is December. We're handling, playoff posts for,
Sure.
It was up to 20 teams at one point. And, then we're doing at the end of the season, it's draft orders and opponents for next year. So the last few weeks have been very busy for us. It actually slows down in the playoffs because I only have to worry about two teams at a time.
That's true.
So there was 8 games going at the late afternoon window, and we were trying to figure out who's going to be first, second, and third place. And obviously the draft order was going to shift around. And so it's just there was a lot going on Sunday. And I think I sat down at probably 11 a.m. and went to sleep at 1:30 a.m. So it was busy. But yeah, so I actually look forward to the playoffs. So yeah, there we go.
I was going to ask you, remove SB Nation from this, remove Talking Buffalo from this on my end, just as a football fan, as a Bills fan specifically here in this case, of course. What do you like? When for the week when the playoffs start, of course, the Bills, Sunday, 1 p.m., Jacksonville Jaguars, wild card round. On a personal level, do you get anxious when it comes to following your team in the first week of the playoffs? It just feels like there's so much at stake for the Bills this year. You know what I mean? Maybe not necessarily of getting to the Super Bowl, although of course that's the goal, but losing this game could be bad in some ways. I don't know, but just again, as a fan, are you comfortable right now? You got anxiety going on? Is it a little bit too early in the week to really think about that here Wednesday?
I mean, normally I'm not too worried going into the playoffs as a Bills fan, but this year the Jaguars are a really tough test, and I know we'll talk about them.
Yeah.
A little bit later in this podcast, going up against Phillip Rivers and the Colts didn't I wasn't anxious at all. Didn't really register that. So I think the opponent matters in this particular case, and this Bills team, as we've talked about all season, is far from perfect.
I'm glad you said that about Phillip Rivers. In past years, Mason Rudolph, some of those. Who the hell was the Skylar Thompson? Was it from Miami that one year when the Bills in the first round of the playoffs, the wild card rounds? There's two things, and then we're going to get into what we usually do, and it'll be quicker for the most part this week. We're going to do Bills positional analysis like we always do. There's always so much you could take away or talk about from a regular season finale that didn't mean a whole lot, where most of the starters either played very little bit or didn't play at all. But we'll go through that. We'll focus a little bit on Jacksonville specifically as well. But there's two things that kind of got me, I was kind of in borderline shitty mood right now, I guess, as a Bills fan and just as a content creator too, I think. I need to hit on before we get into it. Number one, you mentioned guys like Phillip Rivers, Colts version, or Chargers version of Phillip Rivers back in the day, and Thompson and Mason Rudolph, and these relatively, I want to say it's never a cakewalk in the playoffs, but games where it's I don't think you had a lot of fear in your heart. You know what I mean? Maybe you didn't want to say that because you didn't want to jinx the team, but you were confident to overconfident in the Bills in the first round. And I go back to last week And I wondered at the time when the Bills lost to Philadelphia on, a failed 2-point conversion. I'm not going to sit here and say, we're not going to rehash the game again. Like it's the only reason they lost was because Josh Allen missed Khalil Shakir in the end zone, but they win the game if he makes that throw. It's just simple as that. Anyway, I was juggling. I spent all last week wondering. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I mean, this is the way things were meant to be. You know what I mean? Maybe this is going to work out well for the Bills that they didn't win this game. I wonder that all week. Well, would the Philly game matter? It did. It did. As far as I'm concerned, it did. Because if the Bills beat Philly, and I know a lot of people are going to get annoyed hearing this, I accept that before the words come out of my mouth right now. But if the Bills simply beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was there to beat them on the final play of the game, they're not playing the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. They're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, that would have made for an incredibly stressful Sunday night viewing if you really wanted Pittsburgh to beat Baltimore the way that game played out. If you're a Bills fan, you probably would have had many heart attacks during the game. But, yeah, I can't. I shouldn't be. It's not right. I understand that. So if you still want to criticize me, go ahead. I'm admitting my flaws to everybody right now as I'm saying them. But I can't stop thinking about the fact that the Bills should be playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there's zero part of me that thinks that the Bills would have lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I still think they can beat Jacksonville. We'll talk about that. But, and I know you say, well, if you want to get to the Super Bowl, you got to beat Jacksonville anyway at some point, or a team like that. That's true. But if you lose one game, you're out. And if you could get a favorable for, you try to get a bye. And if you can't get a bye, you want to get the best first round matchup possible. And the Bills could have had that because Pittsburgh just doesn't have the horses, I feel like, to beat the Buffalo Bills. And they blew it. They blew it in the Philly game. That's just what it is. So I'm kind of ornery a little bit about that. I'm sure you're not, but that's how I feel right now. I'm just being honest with you, Matt.
I understand that. I guess I look at it from the other side. Like, I mean, if the Bills really wanted to, well, say the Bills beat the Eagles in that game, they come into week 18 and now you're thinking about like starting Josh Allen and all of your starters so that you can play the fourth place team. And then I guess hope it's not the Ravens because the Ravens can take you the distance. And so they did get their bye by losing to the Eagles. And then they were able to rest most of their starters in this game. We'll talk about some else in a second, I know. But but by resting most of their starters in this game, they were able to kind of reset for that postseason run. And in contrast to say what the Texans did, which is play their starters for a good chunk of the game. The Jaguars played their starters for a good chunk of the game. They were lucky enough to be able to play the Tennessee Titans and be able to pull their starters relatively early. But like the Bills did get their bye that they were, kind of hoping for because they lost to the Eagles. So it is kind of a double-edged sword saying they should have beat the Eagles. And like, listen, I wanted them to beat the Eagles too. I wanted them to be the 5 seed. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's necessarily going to like super impact their path to the Super Bowl, like you said. And I do think it impacts what they did in week 18. And so, obviously butterfly effect stuff, matters.
That's a great point. I mean, you're right. They did get essentially, for all intents and purposes, with their key players that they needed to get rest. They did get a bye. They might have rested
their starters. They might have rested their starters anyway. I don't think that it really mattered to Sean McDermott what seed they ended up being. And looking at the AFC playoff picture, I understand why. Like none of the teams are perfect. None of the teams are great. So I understand what you're saying, and I agree with it. I don't necessarily, like I said, think it would have changed how Sean McDermott approached this game, and he probably still would have rested his starters.
See, I agree with your first point, and I don't agree with the second one. I don't think they would have rested their starters. Okay. I think if they had an opportunity to win the division, I think the starters start the game. They don't play the whole game. Maybe once Miami gets up like 31-10, I think it got to be at one point.
Yeah.
Then maybe you start Yankee people. But hey, who knows what happens in the first half? Josh Allen, James Cook, Benford, Groot, Bosa, a lot of these guys who did Shaq Thompson, Milano, these linebackers who are a big key.
Right. Does Poyer push to come back? All that stuff. Yeah. I forgot about the division angle of it. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're right, especially the first time. Doesn't matter. Look, they got to beat Jacksonville. The other thing, if you follow me on Twitter, which by the way, at Patrick Moran TV, or if you listen to the show yesterday, I hit on it a little bit, you'll know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, you may have no idea. So I went back and I watched the all-22 film from Sunday's game, which I didn't want to do. I was like, there's no reason to. It doesn't really matter. These guys are backups. I got other better things I could do. I really got to lock in on Jacksonville. But I wanted to go back and watch a few things. Number one, I watched the play where Dawson Knox scored the touchdown just because I wanted to see the coverage, what the Jets were doing, because Jackson Hawes and Knox were running side by side. There wasn't nobody in 15 yards of them. They fit, the Jets bit on the play action. I've never seen a team bite on play action so hard in my life. I mean, literally, and it's not even speed receivers. 2 tight ends are just running on the field untouched, and Mitch got to pick which guy he wanted to throw the touchdown to. So I wanted to watch that play. Then I said, you know what? I want to see the Max Harrison injury. So I watched the play. I knew Max Harrison was out there because he got hurt.
Right.
And I wasn't happy about that. And I was kind of vocal about that as well. But you could sell me on that a little bit. What I didn't know until I watched the all-22, I didn't realize anyway, I should have paid attention, but I didn't, was when Max Harrison got hurt, Trey White was out there. I'm like, what? Why? And then I watched the next 5 plays because the Jets had 5 more plays, including the 2-point conversion, because they finally scored a touchdown. So 4 plays and a 2-point conversion. And Trey White stayed in the game after Max Harrison got hurt. And that really pissed me off. And it fired me up. I'm like, you're up 5 touchdowns, man. And you got your starter out there. Dane Jack, you are 1 play away from Dane Jackson. And you could have been, Dane Jackson could be a starter if something could have happened over those last 5 plays. I lost my shit, so I tweeted about it.
I know.
And a lot, and I mean a lot.
You had hundreds of replies, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I engaged people, and I said, I really don't like doing that anymore. You know, friends like in the media, like Matt Perino and Jay Skursky, I talk to those guys all the time. And they're like, why do you do that? Why do you engage with people? You're just giving them more fuel. Make your point, let somebody whatever, and just ignore it. Well, I'm not that guy. I told you this. I'm never the bigger person. I don't take the high road. It's just not what I do. I wish I did, but I don't. Anyway, these fans are coming back at me. Listen, Matt, I'll say this. I'm as self-deprecating as anybody else, as anybody. I will make fun of myself. You can't make fun of me. I'll make fun of myself. I have a lot of terrible takes. I will, for the most part, own my terrible takes. I could have a take, and I could get moved off it. It literally just happened 4 minutes ago on this show. I said I thought it was stupid, and I'm pissed off that the Bills, couldn't be playing Pittsburgh this week. Where then you tell me, well, there were benefits to that. They got the rest of their starters. It was kind of like a bye week for the Bills, ultimately this and that. And you're right. So I'm already moved off my take. I'm not afraid to move off a take. But I will die on this hill. I will plant my flag in the ground that it is insanity to argue that Trey White, it was okay. Well, because whether it was an incentive, which, by the way, he already had the incentive locked in with the snap percentage. And number 2, that they didn't have anybody else there. I don't give a shit. So before we get into the rest of today's show, for the bozos that are out there right now, and if you're on Twitter or if you're watching the show, you're listening, whatever, if you're still defending the fact that Trey White being left out there in the 4th quarter after Max Harrison got hurt, okay? Trey was out there, again, for the next 5 plays. Imagine what the narrative would be on this show and on social media. Every podcast had something happen to Trey White during those 5 plays. Just imagine what it would be like if he got hurt late in the 4th quarter after Max Harrison got hurt in the 4th quarter of a 35-0 game immediately after Max goes out too. Imagine Dane Jackson is your CB2 now in the playoffs because Trey White was trying to get an incentive. Which, by the way, again, he already did. Imagine saying that playing literally anyone else at cornerback would have been the better idea. In a finale when you're up 35 points with 7 minutes left in the game and freaking Brady Cook is the quarterback for the New York Jets. You got to stop it because you're making yourself look stupid, man. It's insanity. Again, Keon Coleman, Latu, put Jordan Phillips out there. I don't care who it is. Surrender the touchdown. Play a 4-4-3. Only have 3 DBs. Do whatever you got to do. Play 5 defensive linemen. Play a goal line defense. Who gives a shit if they score a touchdown when it's 35-0? You cannot have Trey White out there in the 4th quarter, and especially after Max Harrison goes down. That's it. You can't do it.
And I don't want to add fuel to your fire. And I did not engage in, the tweets and all that stuff. Not because I don't engage in tweets. I love that stuff. But do you remember Trey White's last injury against the Miami Dolphins? The Bills were up in that game. And I was like, why are their starters still in? And then immediately he busts his Achilles. So like, I didn't think of it on Sunday, but I thought of it like getting ready for this podcast. I'm like, Trey White was hurt when that game was in hand, like last time. So that makes, I don't disagree with your take at all. And looking at some of the snap counts, there's a few different things that like leap out to me in the defensive back room. Cam Lewis only played 52% of the snaps. So they kept Trey White out there after they took Cam Lewis out of the game. And then Sam Franklin only played 6 snaps on defense. So, I mean, you're saying that those two guys are more important to your long-term goals this season than Trey White is, and Max Harrison for that matter. So that kind of surprised me when I looked at those snap totals. And I get that Sam Franklin plays special teams, and I get that Cam Lewis is super versatile, and you want him to be able to play cornerback or safety in the event of an injury. But like you said, like after the Max Harrison injury in particular, you don't think that Sam Franklin can come in and play some snaps, or that, Cam Lewis can come back onto the field and play some snaps, and so that Trey White isn't it. I wasn't like, super pissed at the time. And then I saw he played 100% of the snaps, and I'm like, man, that's a little bit sussy. That's weird.
It's beyond weird. It's stupid. That's what it is. It's stupid. Look, Sam Franklin as a DB is borderline useless. He did come into the game after Max Harrison got hurt.
Right. He played the final in place of Harrison, right? Yeah.
I don't like Max Harrison playing, especially in the fourth quarter, but I'll concede that you got somewhat of you got roster limitations. It's not the preseason. You don't got 90 guys to draw from. I understand that. And I could accept him getting hurt. That's an unfortunate part of the game. But Trey White being out there is just flirting with disaster. And I'll tell you this. And I don't know, by the way, if Cam Lewis got dinged up in this game, because there's no way that they could value Cam Lewis more than they value Trey White. But anyway, here's my point. Do you remember last year's AFC Championship game? What happened? Who got hurt in the first quarter? Christian Benford.
Christian Benford, yes.
What happened after that? Who came into the game? Kyer Elam.
And they did not.
How did that go?
So great. It didn't go so well. No.
How did that go? He was helpless out there. He was completely helpless. So now the Bills are one snap away from Dane Jackson being out there as it is. And again, you risked the possibility of something freaky happening and Trey White going down, which could have happened. And you risked Dane Jackson having to start and play 4 quarters in that football game because you kept Trey White out there. It's mind-blowing. And Sean McDermott admitted that he considered playing guys out of position at the end because of that, and that's the reason why. Anyway, thank God Trey White got, stayed healthy and he's fine. But that could have been a season wrecker. You're going to play a team with multiple good receivers. Dane Jackson's unplayable. As close to it as you could get if he's not completely unplayable. So that's why I'm so fired up. And there's a lot of people who cover McDermott's head all the time as it is. Just imagine one more time here. Both those guys go down back to back. Max, unfortunate. Trey White, completely preventable. And you left him out there and he got hurt. Just imagine Dane Jackson. Not to mention the Brandon Bean. Hey, Darius Slay, you got a guy he didn't report and you lost Ingram for nothing. I'm just saying.
Yes. And even some of Sean McDermott's staunchest supporters were questioning that on both Sunday night and Monday after his press conference. So he has to know by now that was the wrong decision, the Trey White part. I don't think he's probably ever going to admit that keeping Max Harrison in the game was a bad decision. But I do like your point about play a 4-4-3. Like you're up 30 points on the freaking Jets in a game that it doesn't matter if you win or not. Like you're trying to go pitch a shutout against the freaking Jets. Like what the hell? Come on, just put 11 guys out there and roll with it. Like your least important. I hate to say that about people, it's just your least important 11 guys that can play defense and roll with whatever position groups it is. Everyone plays man up. Everyone, the front seven holds their holds their gaps, the back four, just man up on the receivers and go from there.
And who gives a shit if they score? Who cares?
Yeah, that's my point.
They score 2 touchdowns. There's 7 minutes, and the Bills are going to run the ball for 4 or 5 minutes off the clock. If they score another touchdown, who cares?
Yep.
They score another touchdown, who cares? If it gets to within 2 scores, then maybe I'll put Troy White out there to preserve a lead, in the last 2 minutes of a game. Otherwise, It's insanity. I don't give a shit if the Jets score 2 touchdowns. It's just, we better move off this because I could go a full hour about it.
Absolutely.
I guess I'm equally, again, dude, I could get moved off takes and I could be reasonable. People are planting their foot deep into the ground on this.
I don't know how you can defend it.
I don't understand. I don't either, but you'd be shocked. I've had people, in fact, I put one of them on my Facebook. I kind of take some of the best people or the people who disrespect me the most, and it's the funniest stuff. And somebody called me drool bucket today on social media. They said I'm a walking drool bucket or something like that. I had to put that on my Facebook. I just thought that was funny. But
is the only argument that people are making to you that like positional, like you only have so many guys that can play?
Yes, 95% of the people that have argued with me over the last 24 hours are like, you only got so many guys on your roster. By the way, you remember Isaiah McKenzie played some corner for the Bills in a kind of a similar situation before? Again, Keon Coleman, he ain't going to play in the playoffs. He may as well have been out there. Latu out. Again, it doesn't matter. Anybody.
Let's get nuts.
I'd rather you played, seriously, man, I'd rather you play with freaking 10 guys out there on defense and just gave them a touchdown, which I'm still not sure the Jets can score a touchdown with 10 guys out there. Anyway, they only have one for the entire game. It's crazy. Thank God.
I like the Keon idea.
And again, knock on wood, Christian Benford, who's had some bad luck in the playoffs with injuries, please let him stay healthy. Please, because if Dane Jackson's out there, the Bills are in trouble. That's just what it is. The Bills are in deep trouble if Dane Jackson's out there. And one last little quick point, too. If you're trying to come up with the best matchups for your practice squad elevations for the week, like an extra defensive end, or maybe you want to have an extra tight end in this situation, whatever it may be, or an extra linebacker, whatever it may be, well, your options are now less because Dane Jackson is 100% going to be a practice squad elevation. Now, he has to be. So, man, I don't know. It's not a good situation, but they got away with it. So,
yeah, and they could have flipped somebody to the main roster. They had 4 tight ends going into this game. I didn't think that Kincaid was going to play. We'll talk about that when we get to the tight ends. But they did have 4 tight ends on the roster, and all 4 of them played. And they
won't.
Game.
Yeah, and they won't. And Latu is going to get probably released and hopefully signed back to the practice squad. I feel like that's how that's going to play out. You can't worry about the future. You're not going to have 4 tight ends for this game. You need to have maybe Dane Jackson gets signed in the active roster because they know Harrison's going to miss multiple weeks. Then you could still have 2 practice squad elevations. Anyway, all right, let's get into some of these. And again, some will be quicker than others. Quarterback, we'll start there. Josh played 1 snap. Mitch Trubisky, 22 of 29, 259, 4 touchdowns. I, along with everyone else, made the QB controversy joke like everyone else probably did.
Rob Johnson, baby. Rob Johnson.
What are your thoughts? I have one thought, and again, people are going to think I'm a hater by the end of the show if they don't already, but I got a thought. But what's yours? Quarterback, Mitch Trubisky.
Josh Allen looked really, really good in that uniform. Can we just say that with the red helmet and the blue? He looked really nice. We'll just throw that.
Those uniforms were dope, and yes, he did.
They were. I thought Trubisky was great. The fact that we can use it against Drake May's MVP candidacy made me a lot happier too. So, my bigger question, I give him an A+. That was a great game. The bigger question is, does Mitch Trubisky get another chance to be a bridge quarterback somewhere at age 32 this offseason, or does he re-sign in Buffalo as Josh Allen's best friend? Like, that's the question I'm really asking myself after that game.
It's a fair question. And my take was he did play good. That said, there's no resistance. I'm not going to give him a lot of credit. I'm really not. Shane Bichelle could have had a monster day in this. Seriously, I mean, again, look at the Dawson Knox touchdown. There's no one within 15 yards. Do you remember Keon Coleman caught a pass and he was so wide open that he actually turned to look backwards?
Yeah.
He didn't even know. It's like, where is somebody? There was nobody there. Guys were just literally wide open. It's not like he was threading the needle on some incredible throws. He did have one to Reggie Gilliam, which, by the way, was a great throw and a great catch, too.
Yeah.
from Reggie Gilliam. But yeah, man, fine. It was a good game. Don't get me wrong. If he can parlay that into more money, good on him. I hope so. I think if a team wants to, sign him and be a starting bridge quarterback, I don't know if I do that, man. I don't know.
One, there's not a lot of great quarterbacks in this draft
No.
class. Two, I do think the quarterback play around the NFL has been pretty decent this year. I know it's been inconsistent around the NFL, but there's not a ton of teams that are going to be looking for that kind of quarterback this offseason. So
right.
I do think it's probably likely he's back in Buffalo.
Yeah. I'd love to have him back in Buffalo. Yeah,
I like him.
He's a good QB too. Mm-hmm. He could win you a game. He'll win you a couple games maybe if you have to. So for sure. Running backs. Ray Davis, 21 carries, 151 yards. Also had 2 catches for 23 yards and a touchdown. I've been waiting for this version of Ray Davis for most of the year, and it's really come out over the last month. I think those couple kick returns he had really kind of jump-started his entire season. He's becoming valuable again. I thought he was really good last year, and I thought he was for a lot of this year, but not anymore. Ty Johnson, 13 carries, 36 yards. He was the focal point of one of my favorite parts of this game, by the way. He also 2 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown. James Cook got the start, 2 carries for 15 yards. I honestly didn't understand that much. I'm mad about it, but anyway, what do you think?
I started betting incentives last year because Sean McDermott has shown that he is going to get guys incentives. So like James Cook touchdown last year, he kept him in the game so he could, break the Bills scoring record, rushing touchdown record, I should say. I bet Ty Johnson this year to get 2 touchdowns, even though I had no reason to think that he was going to get 2 touchdowns and that cashed. I bet the Dawson Knox touchdown and that cashed. So like, I was like, I'm just throwing it out there for the future. If anyone wants, my betting takes, I don't usually share them, but yeah, the Ty Johnson stat line isn't great, but obviously they were force feeding him down at the goal line to try to get those touchdowns. It was interesting to hear Reggie Gilliam talk after the game and Mitch Trubisky talk about Reggie Gilliam after the game because the fans in the stands were chanting for Reggie to get a touchdown too.
Yeah.
But Mitch is like, it's hard when the fans are chanting, like the defense kind of knows it's coming. I'm like, I've seen Kyle Williams score from the 1 yard line when he comes in as a fullback and everyone knows he's getting the handoff. Like, we could do this. Come on. Like, so anyway, that's neither here nor there. Ray Davis looked great out there. Even CBS mentioned it, like that, what you said, like he had a pretty good year last year. And then this year kind of been slow to get going. And so seeing him get, kind of off the schneid in the run game was really cool to see as well. And wasn't his like big catch and run against the Jets last year too? So like maybe he just likes playing the Jets.
He had 155 yards from scrimmage last year on that Monday Night Football game when Cook was out against the Jets. Yeah, to your point, I really like the Ty Johnson thing because they made a concerted effort to get him that touchdown. They didn't score on that possession, but they gave him the ball 4 straight times.
Yes.
And you could tell by the last one, he just surrendered. He got hit once. He was dead ass tired, man.
I thought I wasn't going to cash at that moment in time when he got stopped for 4th down.
Yeah, but that was really cool. Anyway, all right, let's do this quick break, come back. We'll start to fly through some of these and we'll get to Jacksonville as well right after this quick break. Matt Warren, SB Nation, here with me on today's Talking Buffalo, presented by William Matar. Her in a car, call William Matar, 444-4444. Wide receivers, Josh Palmer, 1 catch for 1 yard. Keon Coleman, 2 catches for 49 yards. And again, I don't think he'll ever get more wide open in his life than he was on that. I think it was a 32-yarder or something like that there. Gabe Davis, 5 catches, 41 yards, a touchdown. And the only thing I'll add here, Matt, is that most of these this means nothing for the most part, most of the stats that we're talking about today. But if there were any doubt, like if Sean McDermott was kind of lulling over, do I go with Keon or do I go with Gabe Davis next week? I think that question got answered. Gabe had a couple great catches. It was a good game. So I think it was a beneficial game for Gabe Davis here.
Yeah, a few things here. Brandon Cook's inactive. So I think that shows you that he's in their significant plans for the playoffs. They didn't even want to expose him out there. You didn't mention the noted lack of wide receiver screen passes and bubble screens.
0.
So,
Saving them all for this game.
right. But no, Gabe Davis had a very nice game. That Moss was a really unique play that the Bills just don't have. They drafted Keon Coleman to make that play, and Coleman has done that maybe a handful of times in 2 years. But we've seen Davis do it over and over again. I really like your takeaway about Gabe Davis probably being on the game day roster for these playoff games. Maybe not, depending on some of the injury situations that we've seen, but if you're going to have a wide receiver, it's certainly going to be him. Palmer officially been a miss from Brandon Beane and the coaching staff. I'm putting it on Joe Brady as well, not just Brandon Beane, but because I think he's a really talented player. They just haven't used his skill set well, and his stat line in this game kind of exemplifies that. And then even if you look at his per game averages for when he was healthy, and don't just look at the overall season numbers, they're just not very good. So we'll talk more about that on our year-end show, I'm sure, but just kind of not great from the receivers. I gave them a B for this game, and it's basically because Gabe Davis just like dragged them over the finish line.
Good point. Yeah, listen, it's Shakir, it's Shavers, it's Cooks. The fact that Cooks didn't even dress tells you plenty right there. Gabe Davis is playing. Gabe Davis is in Palmer. He's playing in the playoffs. I'm telling you now, he will play in the playoffs. I love your point about Josh Palmer, and I completely agree. Maybe he could do something special in the playoffs to make the regular season not matter, because ultimately that's what it's all about. Just seems, in fairness, the injuries have played a role too, but like the Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel types just haven't thrived in this offense.
But Samuel did last postseason. I think he scored 2 touchdowns in the postseason.
Yeah, he did. He definitely had one against Kansas City in Arrowhead. That's for sure. Yeah, look, it's nothing even personal. It's like I got nothing personal against Keon Coleman. It's just Gabe Davis is a better receiver. It's just what it is, man. And Josh trusts him. And maybe he was a healthy and active a little bit down the stretch because they wanted to preserve him, keep that knee healthy, not get sore during games so they could have him for the playoffs. But anyway, I think there's no question now that he's going to be the guy. And it's very disappointing about Josh Palmer. I've looked foolish. I mean, I've been bullishly high on him all year, and it's not paid off. Maybe it will next week, but otherwise, tight ends. Dalton Kincaid played the first quarter, 3 catches, 48 yards. Presence felt. Dawson Knox 2 for 24 and a very profitable touchdown catch. Hawes didn't have any stats. And then Latu, 3 catches for 31 yards. Ran some money over too. I really like that, man. Played well. Maybe he's got a few. Maybe he's TE3 next year for the Bills. You know, they move on from Knox. Hawes becomes the second tight end. There's a spot on this roster in the future for Latu. So if he was playing for his future anyway, it was a good day. Tight end, which has been for the most part, Matt, maybe alongside running back, our most consistently good graded position all year.
Yeah, A+ again. They've gotten more A's and A+ than any other position on the roster. It was nice to see Latu lay in the wood there. Hawes did have 1 target, I think, and he was in there to block mostly. And then, he's Latu's got a $1 million NFL minimum salary already for next year if they don't cut him now. But he'll sign for that anyway if they cut him and re-sign him. So, yeah, he could be making a case for tight end 3. He could be making the case just to be the tight end 4 again if the Bills do somehow keep Dawson Knox on the roster.
Offensive line, 4 backups. Spencer Brown played 3 snaps. He had to come in briefly because Grable went down briefly. But anyway, it was Grable, Anderson, Van Brand Granger, Osiris Torrance, who played the whole game, by the way. So if there's any question about who they it's not to say that they think Edwards is better per se than Torrance, but maybe they just trusted Torrance to be able to get through a full game more than Edwards at this late part of the season. But Edwards did not see the field. And Brian Vandermark played the whole game too at tackle. 211 rushing yards, no sacks. I don't even know that he got pressured. I don't think he got pressured much. Yeah, no QB hits. So, I mean, again, I'm not going to put any stock into these guys. Hopefully we don't see any of them except Torrance, of course, come next week. But whatever. It was a good game.
Yeah. I got some highlights to talk about. Alec Anderson did a somersault in the Big Dubs video. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Did he?
Yeah, he did. Like, he was the first. Oh, there's a cat here. Okay. So I locked her away. She must have got out. So Alec Anderson was the first guy in the Big Dubs video, and he just does like a somersault and is like Big Dubs. And I'm like, oh my, that's the vibes are high. Speaking of vibes being high, Spencer Brown during Mr. Brightside is always a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's our offensive line conversation. Like we're talking about vibes in post game videos because they were just stellar during the game. A+.
Yeah. I don't got nothing to add. All right, let's do defensive line together. And you can talk about anyone specifically that you want to talk about. Mathis Sanders had his first sack of his career, by the way. Ogunjobi Phillips. Then at edge, it was pretty much Epinesa, Solomon, and Matthew Judon who got called up for this game. I don't know, whatever thoughts you have, you can grade them, do whatever you want. What do you think?
Sure, I gave both position groups an A. Where has this Larry Ogunjobi been all season? The dude was everywhere. He was laying like hits on people. He was just good, moving in space well. Like this is the Larry Ogunjobi we want to see in the postseason when he gets his opportunities. I thought it was a solid game from AJ Epinesa. He had a pass defended and 2 quarterback hits.
And a personal foul.
Yeah.
I know. I just had to.
Yeah. So, like, I mean,
I'm
just,
a hater.
it was nice. Yeah. I mean, if you want to be a hater, we could talk about Javon Solomon playing so many snaps and getting 0 on the stat sheet, but that's a different conversation. Sorry. He had two tackles. It wasn't 0. Sorry.
Yeah. 3 guys that I wanted to specifically hit on real quick. 2 good, 1 not good. I thought Fidarian Mathis played very well in this game.
He's had some really nice moments this year.
Hey, 4 tackles. He played well. He was moving bodies in the front. Does that earn him a game day jersey in Jacksonville? I don't know. I'm also going to be careful with the front 7 here, just like with Mitch Trubisky, because I just think the Jets are so anemic that I don't want to get too high on anything I saw in this specific game. But Mathis played well. I liked it. I also thought TJ Sanders, and I've been saying this for a few weeks now, I think he's trending up. And it was nice to see him get his first NFL sack here in the finale. And I tell you what, Mathis may or may not play. They're going to need TJ Sanders to make a couple plays on Sunday. And if they go further beyond that, because we don't know if DaQuan Jones is going to play or not. And even if he does, you only have Walker, Jordan Phillips, or Mathis. I think Sanders is going to get a lot of snaps, and he's going to have to make some plays. So I like that. And you're also right about Ogunjobi. Where the hell's that guy been? On the negative side, and I'm not surprised because I've heard things. Matthew Judon, nothing with his opportunity. He looked foolish on one play. Look, he's a good play. He's had a good career, a long career. He's old. He's just not that guy. He's just not that guy, man. And
is he better than Javon Solomon is the question that you're going to have to ask yourself. And Solomon obviously has special teams capability. So like, I don't even think that's the question. I really don't. And the answer is no. Javon Solomon will play because he's played all year long. He's a special teams guy who plays pretty well on special teams. And if you get into a pinch where you got to play him, then he plays. The question is Matthew Judon better than Andre Jones Jr.? Yeah.
And my answer to that is also no. I think we've talked about a little bit on the show over the last couple of weeks. I think Andre Jones Jr. has been okay at edge, and he plays special teams too. So if the Bills, and again, having to use an elevation on a corner is not something that the Bills want to do, but they got to do that now with Dane Jackson. If they use an elevation to bring up that extra defensive edge, it's probably going to be Andre Jones Jr. ahead of Matthew Judon. And I think for whatever it's worth, that's the right call. Again, the casual average fan's going to say, how do you not bring up Matthew Judon? Well, just because he's shot, man. He's just not that guy. He's just not. And ditto with Shaq Lawson, because trust me when I tell you, if Shaq Lawson had anything left to give in a game, he would have gotten up, especially would have been up at some point before by now. So either they don't elevate anybody and they go with 4, but now you're messing around. You got Groot, you got Bosa, you got Epinesa, Solomon. Do you trust Solomon to be your 4th because they play all 4 guys? Or did they go back to Andre Jones Jr.? And I think that's what ultimately they're going to do. Linebackers, no Shaq Thompson, no Matt Milano. Completely the right call. Terrell Bernard's hurt. Buffalo Joe, Dorian Williams, Keontae Jenkins. They all played a lot. Thoughts? Do you have any?
I mean, Andreessen had 2 tackles for a loss, and I think after a poor preseason, this was probably a nice confidence booster for both him and the team in what he can bring to the field, because he did, like, if you remember back, we were talking in the preseason, like, I mean, he had a bad preseason. And so this probably gives them a little bit more confidence.
Yeah. I really don't have anything other to add to that too. Dorian Williams was what Dorian Williams is. You know, he's fine. Keontae Jenkins came up for a week, gave them snaps that they needed to get.
Yep.
Nothing more, nothing less to add to that. Joe Andreessen, I agree with you. I think he might have built his case to keep his job next year. You know what I mean? More experience, plays. He made plays. Good game for him.
But he's the Tyler Matakevich guy. Like, he's going to play all 4 of your special teams. And then if he happens to get into the game, you hope he can hold his own to get through the end of an injury situation. And so I think that with the game he played today, they probably feel comfortable enough with him in that injury spot to keep him, like you said. Agreed
100%. And you're right, man. He may never be a starter, but it's pretty cool that guy could end up being a guy who has like 6, 7, 8 year career in the NFL. That's pretty awesome, man. Secondary, let's just lump them in together. I'm going to spare you the whole, I already said.
You want to talk about Trey White again?
What do you got to say? Well, let's just put the secondary together.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets receivers, they talked about it in the broadcast. The leading receiver for the Jets didn't play since week 6? Like, their wide receivers are bad. And so they didn't have to do a lot, to your earlier point. Like, just put 3 defensive backs out there and call it a day. I mean, they played fine when they were out there. I just don't know if we needed, the Max Hairston, Trey White show.
They're brutal. They're just not good, man. And I'll tell you this too. I looked at the receivers. So when you watch the all 22, when the specific play loads up, it also has a box and it tells you all 11 players are on the field, which is what I was looking at more than the plays themselves. But those plays when Max got hurt and afterwards, where people were like, "Well, you can put Coleman out there." The Jets receiver. Well, first of all, they had a 1 receiver set for all but 1 play, and it was John Mechie the third. Then they had 1 snap with 2 receivers. Those 2 receivers were Arian Smith and Quentin Skinner.
Those are people's names.
Those are names of people who play for the New York Jets. Yeah, whatever. We can't change anything. The one unknown, sometimes, most of the time I'm glad. I'm a content creator. I have no business being at press conferences. I'm not in the media. I don't cover the team as a reporter like that. I talk about the team, so that's how I cover the team. I wish I could have been in the press conference, because unless I missed it on Monday, nobody asked Sean McDermott about Cam Lewis. I want to know.
I don't think so.
If Cam Lewis got dinged up. He wasn't mentioned. And Cam Lewis was not out there, again, before, during, or after the Max Hairston injury. And I don't understand that. I just don't. I mean, you're preserving your backup nickel / starting dime safety, and special teams guy cannot possibly be more prevalent than having Troy White out there. But I'm going to move on from that because I want to get to other things here to end the show. All right, so there's the safety. Special teams. Man, there's really not a lot to talk about, except Matt Prater, who re-aggravated his quad as we record this on Tuesday. We're getting close to lunchtime now. The Bills, per Sean McDermott, they're gonna work out some kickers today. By the time you listen to this, they may have a kicker on the practice squad, maybe, or maybe they just have somebody saying, "Yo, have your phone ready if I have to call you." Prater's day to day. He may play. Maybe it was at least semi-precautionary why they took him out. Like, maybe he just felt a little twinge. They say, "Yeah, no, you're done kicking in this game. You're done kicking in this game." I don't know. Obviously, that could be a problem. But anyway, for this game, a couple extra points, got hurt. They didn't punt, and they were pretty good in coverage. I don't care. I mean, honestly, I don't care about specialties with this game. It didn't mean anything other than Prater's quad.
Yeah, I didn't write anything down for the special teams because I didn't think about it at all either. I do think that it's a slam dunk they sign a kicker on the practice squad just to get through practices even. They just need to, get someone that can do kickoff and stuff like that. So, and I wouldn't want Wisniewski doing that necessarily. Same thing with like extra points and stuff like that. I mean, you could put Ray Davis in there to practice field goal block and all that crap. But I think that they're going to sign a kicker to do that instead. So
yeah, well, we have to wait and see what happens. We can't react to news that we don't know anything about. Do we have to talk about coaching? Do you have anything to add about the coaching specifically? You already know how I feel about. I don't know.
The coaching stuff is the Trey White conversation we had at the beginning of the podcast. The Trey White and Max Harrison stuff. It's who played and who didn't.
I respect them trying to get players incentives. I do.
And they've always done
matters.
Yep.
It matters. It matters to the players. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of shit that can matter in March when you're talking free agency, things like that. Guys want to resign. That stuff matters. I'm not going to downplay it. Besides the Trey White thing, the other thing again, it's fine. He's healthy. It's all that matters. But the James Cook thing, either play him for a quarter and a half to make sure you're not going to be sweating out the rushing title like the Bills did on Sunday night because Derrick Henry looked like he was going to pass him. So either play him for a couple drives, get him up to 50, 60 yards because he would have gotten that. I said this. If the Bills had to win this game, like if they had a division title to play for or something like that, Ray Davis might have ran, or not Ray Davis, James Cook would have ran for 200 to 250 yards in this game. And I'm not joking either. They had no answer for Ray Davis. Just imagine what James Cook would have did for them. Anyway, why give him 2 carries? What's the point? Do you hope that he rips a 70-yarder off or something like that on one of those 2 carries? I don't know. I don't think he should have played. Either don't play him at all or play him enough that he's comfortable with his rushing lead.
I actually thought they might give Josh Allen one drive to get to 40 touchdowns because he had 39 coming into the game and 5 straight seasons at 40 touchdowns.
I would have been mad, though.
I know. A lot of people would have been, but it wouldn't have surprised me if they had just done one drive with the starters and then taken Cook and Allen out at the same time.
Yeah.
But then when you saw who was active on the offensive line, you're like, oh, they're definitely not doing that. So
no, it would have been nice. And again, Dawson Knox, don't drop the ball in Cleveland, and Josh has 40 touchdowns.
I know. I've been hammering him for that.
Simple as that. It's okay, though. It is a nice record. But real quick opinion. I don't know I haven't done the research, okay? I only can remember the Bills stuff. I can barely remember Bills shit for past seasons. You think I'm going to research 31 other teams? I don't know if other quarterbacks have done it, but for him coming in 2 straight years now, 1 snap, coming out of the game it's clearly to preserve his streak. Do you have an issue with that? I see people from other teams, of course, who just, they want to hate on the Bills for him coming out there saying, you don't care about stats or whatever, but then you bring him out there to play 1 game just to keep a streak going. I don't know if Brett Favre did it during his streak. I'd have to go and I'd have to look. In fact, now that I'm talking about it, I'm going to go do that. Not now, but do you have any issue with that at all? Him coming out playing 1 snap, coming out?
No. I see.
Not convincing.
I mean, when you look back at it, are you going to be like, Phillip Rivers played 224 straight games and Josh Allen's at like 120 something right now. And like, do I care that he played 1 snap? Not really. He's healthy enough to play. I think that's the important differentiator here. It's not like they're like, wheeling him out in a wheelchair and like for him to take a snap and then leaving.
Yes.
Like he's healthy enough to play. And that's the point of the record, is that he played that many consecutive games because he was healthy for that many consecutive games and available to his team for that many consecutive games. So that's why I'm okay with it. If like I said, if they rolled him out there with his arm taped to his side and then did a direct snap to James Cook so that Josh Allen could continue the record, I think that's a little bit of a different conversation.
100%. I agree fully. If he shouldn't be punished because the team in most years, wrapped up the division, or in this case, they already knew that they weren't going to win the division. It's not fair to him.
Have done that. Peyton Manning must have done that at some point.
That's what I'm saying. I'm going to look it up. I bet you other quarterbacks have. If you're watching or listening to this and you want to do the research for us, go ahead and let us know in the comments. One more real quick break. Come back on the other side, and I want to spend the rest of our time talking about Jacksonville, of course. I'm going to keep this pretty simple and straightforward, Matt Warren. Bills play Jacksonville Sunday, by the way. If you didn't know, everyone, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo on the call, Tracy Wolfson on the sideline. I like that. Feels proper to me to be on CBS. Let me ask you this real quick, too. Schedule came out. I thought it was going to come out after the game Sunday night. It came out at halftime. I was on the air live with Joe. I didn't believe him. I thought he was full of shit at the time when it dropped. Did you have a preference? Was there something that you definitely wanted or something you didn't want to see when we knew the Bills were playing in Jacksonville, but when in, what station, what time, what day?
Yeah. There was some argument that the race for the NFC number 1 seed should have been the final game of the season. That never really made a whole lot of sense to me because I don't know. I thought that having that game Sunday night meant that you could do a lot more with like the scheduling stuff because you didn't have to worry about who was going to be the loser of Seattle and San Francisco and how it was going to impact 5 and 6 in the NFC. So it always made sense to me that to do because it only impacts one team and one game, whereas the NFC one would have impacted multiple ones. So I had a feeling it was going to come out at halftime because of that and not at the end of the game after they were like waiting for the entire NFC playoff picture to shake out, which is what would have happened. I was a little surprised it wasn't on Saturday, that first game, like when the Bills played the Texans, it feels like the AFC South winner just gets kind of slotted into Saturday afternoon games because they just don't draw very well in terms of ratings. I mean, they're in the JV slot on Sunday. The 1 p.m. slot's going to be the smallest TV audience. So it's not like they didn't put them on the worst possible slot, but it's almost the worst possible slot as far as ratings go. So like I said, I thought they were going to be Saturday afternoon. Sunday at 1 would have been my second guess. So I'm glad because my son is a hockey game on Saturday. And so I don't really have to worry about that. So I could just watch the Bills and all the games on Sunday. I didn't think they were going to be on Monday night too, because I thought they were going to put the Ravens Steelers winner on Monday night. So, the Monday night would have been the worst possible situation as far as like the Bills long-term stuff, because then they have the short rest for the next week.
Correct.
So I like Sunday at 1. Like you said, it feels like home. Because for 17 years, we only watch games at 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, something like that. So I didn't mind it at all. I like having Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. Well, I like having Jim Nantz and Tracy Wilson. I like the CBS crew. It's gonna be a fun little game. I wouldn't have wanted them say like on Prime Video on Saturday night. I just Al Michaels, as legendary as he is, I don't love listening to him call games anymore like I used to. And Kirk Herbstreit just loves to tell me where people went to college, and I don't care about that. So I don't love I love Prime Video, like having the Ryan Fitzpatrick of it all, and the pregame show I think is one of the best studio shows out there. But this is probably the best possible outcome and confluence of all of those things, having CBS come on Sunday afternoon. I
was wrong. I predicted they were going to play Saturday at 8 o'clock, and I was wrong. I don't even know why I predicted it. I just predicted it to predict it. I'm happy. I love it. Look, primetime's juicy and it's fun and, all that stuff. And the world watches, or the world's going to watch all these games anyway. But the Bills are 3-2 this year in primetime, man. Not so great. They're 8-1. The Bills are 8-1 on Sunday, 1 p.m. games this year. The one loss, though, if you want to look on the downside,
pretty
they
important.
Lost to Miami. They lost to Miami. They went down to Florida and they lost to the Dolphins. Obviously, it's a different, or hopefully anyway, different circumstance. What I do, 2 little sneaky things about the game that I do like, or at least one of them I like for sure. The other one I don't know that I like. But I didn't want to have the ability to start thinking ahead. Like the Bills are the first AFC game in the playoffs, Bills-Jags. If the other games would have went before the Bills played, I couldn't have helped but think about, if they win this, if the Bills win, they're going here, they're going there. I don't want to think ahead. I just want to focus 100% on the Jags. So I'm glad that the Bills are the first of the AFC games. If the Bills win, then we'll watch, the other games. Can the Chargers knock off the Patriots? Houston and Pittsburgh on Monday night. The one thing I will say, though, if you do want to look ahead and if you can't help yourself, if the Bills win, and I'm doing this in real time. I'm a smart person. I think on the fly. That means Pittsburgh and Houston are playing on Monday night. One of those teams are going to win. Doesn't matter which one. If they're playing Monday night, then the following week, the divisional round Saturday, Sunday, they're not going to play on Saturday.
Correct.
So either both AFC games would be on Sunday in the divisional round, or the Bills would be the Saturday game. So Bills could play on Saturday, but do they do?
No, the Bills would be playing against whoever wins the 4-5 game, and so the Bills will be playing on Sunday if they win this week.
No. Hold on. Well, I guess it depends on the New England game. If New England wins,
you're right.
If the Bills win and New England beats the Chargers, the Bills, we know they're going to Denver.
Correct.
Denver coming off a bye. You put the Bill. Maybe both AFC teams will play on Sunday in that case. You know what? Forget what I just said. I was thinking 1-1, but now that I remember it, I think in a divisional round, they'll go NFC on one day, AFC on the other. And I think that's the way it'll play out. But anyway, let me ask you this. You got to get to the divisional round first. What has you at this point of the week most confident about the Bills' chances? Like, what are one or a few things that when you look at this game, it makes you feel like, hey, I like this for the Bills. I think the Bills got a great opportunity. I think the Bills are going to advance. What's like something that has you, or a few things that have you confident the most, if anything? I got a few.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence hasn't really shown that he can do it. And this Jaguars team still kind of like Liam Cohen's never coached a playoff game as a head coach like that. I think that's kind of what you're hanging your hat on. The Jaguars, like the Bills of the past, have lived and died by turnovers. And we'll talk about that when we get into their defense a little bit. And so, the Bills have shown a pretty good propensity to hold on to the football this year and not, give turnover worthy plays outside of some fumbles that they would love to have back. So if the Bills can hold on to the football, I like what they can do against this Jaguars defense, but that's a big if. And so those are like the two things that I'm hanging my hat on, is like playoff experience and Jacksonville really relying on turnovers.
Good points. I'm not going to talk about all these at length, but Josh Allen, I mean, that gives me confidence here. I do think he's the better quarterback. And, if trends matter, if his history matters, Josh Allen plays as well or better in the playoffs than he does in the regular season. So,
in the wild card round, when he's playing against subpar competition, he barely beat Skylar Thompson.
Sure.
He barely beat Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
The Mason Rudolph game, I think the Steelers game was pretty solid.
Sure. I think this is to your your point. It's a combination of, I'm not completely bought in on the Jags. And I don't want to dismiss what they've done. They're the hottest team in the league. They won 8 in a row. Okay.
It could be the most complete team in the entire playoffs as well.
They could. I'm not, again, you're so could New England. Okay. But just like New England hasn't really beaten anybody, you look at their 8-game winning streak here, or even they've won 9 of their last 10. Okay. Real quick. They won on the road in Vegas. They lost to Houston. They beat the Chargers at home. They beat Arizona on the road in overtime. They won at Tennessee. They beat the Colts. They beat the Jets. They won in Denver, which was absolutely an impressive game. I mean, that was a great game. I watched that too. They were better than Denver that day. That's what, if you're pro Jacksonville, you hold your head on that. And then they won at Indy against Phillip Rivers and then Wiley Leonard at the end in Tennessee. So they're not exactly battle-tested. I think the Bills are very battle-tested. I think the Bills have the potential on the offensive line to impose their will, even though the numbers suggest otherwise. We thought the Bills were really going to struggle to be able to run the ball against the tough Pittsburgh defense, and the offensive line manhandled them. They've done that a lot this year against some pretty good defensive fronts, too. So I like all that. And then the other thing, you hit on this earlier, and I hadn't thought about it originally as it pertained to the upside of losing to Philly. This defense has been better, and they're going to be rested, man. They're healthy now. They're a lot healthier anyway. Bosa and Groot are going to be out. They got plenty of rest. Milano and Thompson, no getting banged up this past week. Benford played. I don't even think he played at all. If he did, he played 1 or 2 snaps in that game Sunday. That's it. Anyway, he's good to go. Deion Walker's rested. Jordan Poyer should be back for this game. I feel like he could have been back last week if he absolutely had to. Anyway, the defense is playing better, and they are healthier. You got to hope that, hey, stay healthy at corner. If Trey and Bedford get through this game, then Max Harrison's injury didn't really matter much. You know what I'm saying? At least for this game. So those are the things that got me the most confident for the Bills right now. What are on the flip side, like when you think about this game, what worries you the most?
Let's just start with Sean McDermott's never won a road playoff game. I mean, we can just literally just lay that out there.
0-5.
Yeah. And especially like the first one in Jacksonville, 10-7 loss, that was terrible. But, so that's a concern for me that they have not played well on the road in the playoffs. Obviously you're playing quote unquote a better team if you're the road team in the playoffs, because you're playing against someone who had a better record than you almost all the time. And so that's, not a huge concern, but it's still just kind of sitting there hanging out. The Jaguars have scored 23 points in every game since their bye, and then 6 of them were over 30. So they can put up points. They have an alien kicker who like just has to get to like midfield and then can, kick bombs from 67 yards. And then they've gone 6 straight games holding teams to 20 points or less. So they've been consistent on both sides of the ball. And so if one side, kind of lacks in a game, like the offense against the Colts a couple weeks ago didn't play particularly well, but the defense held Indianapolis under 20 points. So they were able to win that game. So I just think they play really good complementary football. It's going to take, if Buffalo gets behind in this game, we've talked about this over and over again. If Buffalo gets behind in this game, we know that they have a tendency to be able to come back, but Jacksonville's kind of built to not let that happen. And I'm also scared about Travis Etienne busting one, because the Bills have shown that they are capable of missing a gap assignment once a game and having it cost them, an 80-yard touchdown run.
Yeah, the Bills defense playing bad in the first half before making adjustments and playing better in the second half. That scares me. I think if that happens on Sunday, I think it's over for the Bills. Well, there's a good chance it's over.
I want to say one thing about the Jaguars offense too. They've put up a lot of points this year. They're 8th in the NFL in points, but they're only 20th in yards. We talked about the alien kicker already. Their defense doing a lot of turnovers. They're 20th in yards per drive. So they're 8th in points per drive and 20th in yards per drive. So they just haven't had to move the ball as much as the number of points they've scored would indicate.
Good point. They're third best in the NFL in turnover margin. I know that for sure. The Bills, when they've lost this year, have been bad.
Turn the ball over a ton. Their offense is 19th in turnover percentage. So their offense isn't great at holding on to the ball. Their defense is great in getting turnovers.
If you don't have a horse in this race and you just want to watch a game and you want to stylistically see 2 great units go at each other, the Bills have the best rushing offense in the NFL. Jacksonville has the best rushing defense in the NFL. Like, something's got to give in this football game. Nobody has ran for 75 yards on all year. Jonathan Taylor ran for 74 yards. That's the most any running back has got it on them all season long. You mentioned 23 points. The Bills are undefeated when they get to 23 points this year. But they don't get to 23 points, they're in a lot of trouble. I don't think 23 points is going to get it done for either team in this game. Anyway, I just don't. I'm very
I hope
worried
not.
about
I mean,
that.
I don't know what the weather report is, but if it's like rainy like that Eagles game, it might. But no, I would anticipate that you're right about the 23 points.
Yeah, Devin Lloyd is, by the way, one of the best linebackers in the NFL. That dude, he's going to be an All-Pro this year. And then Josh Allen Hines is a handful too, as well. Although the Bills have, for the most part, had some really good success at nullifying some great edge rushers, throughout the season, with the except for Will Anderson, who just owned their ass. But besides that, I don't know, man. I think first down success, early down success is early. Like, the Bills can't afford to get behind the sticks. Getting in 2nd and 9s and 3rd and 8s. They got to find a way. No, we didn't talk about it during the game Sunday, but there were no bubble screens. Like, are the Bills going to go back to those a lot because they're trying to find other ways? I do too. I'm not joking, because they're going to try to find creative ways to, if they're not running the ball, to get that 4, 5, 6 yards on first down with bubble screens, quick little outs in the flat to Shakir, or swing pass to Kincaid or Knox. I think you're going to see plenty of that. And it's going to piss. There's going to be a lot of fans who bitch about it too when it happens.
But then you take a look, there's a low probability of turnovers on those plays. It's, and when you're facing a defense that turns the ball over so much, that is a weapon. And so I do think they're going to come back to it and spam it hard.
Yeah. 2 other things. One of them I've talked about a lot. I just, it's the nightmares of last year with Kyrie Elam, when they lost in a divisional round the year before that, and all those guys, AJ Klein, these guys who had no business being on the field had to be out there for the Bills.
You had to bring up AJ Klein.
You're one step from Dane Jackson. So the combination of not, God, I don't even necessarily want to say Darius Slay specifically, but him not reporting, just, I don't know, man, because I don't know if Ingram was really much better than Dane Jackson as a boundary corner anyway, but I just really wish they had a better answer than Dane Jackson. I'm going to be horrified if he's got to play in this football game. I just really hope it does not come down to that, because that scares me. And then the last point, just kind of like the laws of gravity. 5 years. They're overdue to have a one and done. Like every great team has a one and done in the playoffs, and the Bills have avoided that every year since 2019 now. It's just like sooner or later, it's going to happen. And
Josh Allen has the second most wins of any quarterback in the postseason this year, largely because the Bills haven't gotten the bye to the divisional round and they keep winning those wild card games. Excuse me. So yeah, I do think that is a thing, like the laws of gravity or whatever, like probabilities, like, the return to the mean. Like that's why you saw the Chiefs miss the playoffs this year. Like the Ravens missed the playoffs. Like every once in a while teams have bad years. I just am going to be pissed off when everyone's like, see, Josh Allen couldn't get it done against, whoever, Trevor Lawrence, or if it's next week, like, oh, Patrick Mahomes wasn't in your way this year. How come you couldn't make the Super Bowl? Well, Patrick Mahomes wasn't in your way because he didn't make the damn playoffs himself. So let's that's not a Josh Allen stat. It's a Patrick Mahomes stat, because that dude missed the playoffs before he hurt his ACL.
I agree. Last real quick question here for you, then we're done. If the Bills win, obviously we'll be preparing for the second round, probably Denver, but hey, man, you never know. Which, by the way, I think the Chargers I don't say easily, they're very capable of going into New England and beating them. So I just want to put that out there. So I'm not writing in pen right now that if the Bills happen to beat Jacksonville, that we're going to Denver. That's not a given whatsoever. But anyway, if the Bills win, we already know what kind of vibes it's going to be and what we're going to be doing. If the Bills lose this game, what are the vibes? The vibes are going to be bad. So that's a stupid question. Do you think if the Bills are one and done in the playoffs, what's the biggest change you can anticipate happening? Now, maybe that depends on how this game plays out before you can, answer that. But right now, just off the top of your head, what do you see? I can see coordinators being gone, but that's about the maximum extent that I could see happening with the Bills.
Man, I don't think there's going to be any change that big. No, I really don't. I don't think they're going to replace Joe Brady. They don't have an obvious candidate in mind unless Brian Daboll somehow face plants this entire head coach cycle, which, especially with all the stuff going on in college, would kind of surprise me. And I don't see Brian Daboll coming back anyway. But at least I could see the thought process that would get you there. So I don't foresee them changing coordinators on either side of the ball. I certainly don't see them moving on from Sean McDermott at all. Brandon Beane, I guess, is a little bit more nebulous, but I, again, don't think that they want to move on from Brandon Beane. So it would surprise me if they did. So I don't see any real big changes other than the wide receiver position. Zing. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I don't think Beane and McDermott go anywhere. Especially McDermott. Anyway,
the biggest change is going to be the stadium. There you go.
And again, I don't know. I don't allow my mind to process anything further than just the general sentiment. I don't want to dig deep because I'm just not ready for that to be a reality.
I mean, we've seen them knee jerk react to playoff exits before. So I mean, who knows? I didn't expect Leslie Frazier to be let go either, but there you go.
Yep. At Matt Warren, Blue Sky, Twitter, of course, SB Nation, and more specifically, if you're a Bills fan, make sure you check out Buffalo Rumblings. If you're a Jaguars fan, or if you're a Bills fan and want to know more about the Jaguars, go to Big Cat Country.
Yep.
I'm actually going to do a nice little deep dive over the next few days there. Matter of fact, we'll see what happens. I found a writer. There was a little bit of research, and reached out to him. So hopefully I could get him on this podcast. Gus Logue. So we'll see if he responds. Hopefully he does. I want to talk Jags with somebody who covers the team. So I figured I'd reach out to a guy who covers them on Big Cat Country. Anyway, if you're a Bills fan, you want to know more about Jacksonville, your opponent, make sure you go there, and there's plenty of stuff on there, which I'm going to be deep diving into as well. Good talking to you, buddy.
Good talking to you.
We will be back next week, but hopefully it'll be to talk about the Broncos or the Texans or the Steelers.
Yeah, it'll be great.
All right, man. I was caught up looking at something else here on this Big Cat Country. I really am about to dive into that side. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. After a full year gone, my guy Tone Pucks is going to be with me in studio on the show tomorrow.